On this episode of In the Paddock, we're here with Mike Maier, who brought down Frank Stagnaro's beautiful Mustang. Do you know how many national titles have been won with this car in SCCA Autocross?
I think 15.
15. Oh, smart out comments are welcome.
No, I saw the camera and I got quiet.
I've always wanted to write an article on this car. Now I'm doing these In the Paddock videos. It's perfect because here we are in the paddock. Mike, tell us about this car. I know it's got a lot of history. You've been driving it a while. What's the deal?
Well, Frank Stagnaro owns the car. In 1969, he sold his Fairlane and bought this thing. And I think the first mod he did was he put headers on in his mom's driveway. And then the second modification I think he did is he put these Shelby rear windows in.
Okay.
And so he's definitely partial to those windows. Don't mess with them because they've got time in the car. But he started autocrossing. He told me recently, which I didn't know, was he always wanted to be really good at something. He always looked up to people that were really good at a thing. And so he said, well, maybe this racing thing is something that he can be good at. And he always really liked watching races. He has fond memories of listening to Indy 500 in the 50s and all that stuff as a kid. So he made it his goal to just work on this, you know. He worked out of his driveway. Later on he got married, had a couple kids, and he worked in his garage on it. He ended up doing side jobs for my dad for a long time, making cash, you know, on weekends doing flare jobs, and then he'd take that cash, save it up, and go to nationals every year with it. He always talked about stacking leaf springs on his own all the time, you know, buying old truck leafs and things and stacking them different ways and trying it out. And then when I was a kid, I saw the car around the shop because my dad started sponsoring them in '73.
Okay.
And so when I started becoming cognizant of things in the early 80s, he'd always leave the car at the shop, maybe get some welding done or something, and I'd sneak in at nighttime and I'd bang gears in that thing. And so I got a lot of virtual miles in this car. After I cut my teeth for a few years racing autocrossing, I'd always hang out with him, you know, because he was, by that time he had won national twice. He was 11-time runner-up. He had come a couple of times, you know, would have won, but didn't. He was kind of like one of the dudes, you know, and I was really lucky to get to learn from him. When I was 18, I got to drive it for my first time for a graduation present.
Okay.
He gave me that. So that was really cool. And then I got to drive it, a tire warmer for him at nationals a couple times. And that was really cool. And then I got Rookie of the Year in it my first year, the year Frank won. This is his third title.
Okay.
He came back and won the next year again, so he had 4 championships in it. All the meantime, his wife, Barbara, she had won in it. Their family friend Liz Berger won in the car. Everybody knows Mary Posey. She won in '82 in the car. So the car had been at the top of the heap since the 70s.
Right.
It's just always in the couple of top 3 or 4, right?
Right.
And we've been co-driving now since non-stop since I think 2007 now.
Okay.
You know, every year together. And then now his grandson's driving the car with us. Been driving for a while. It's really cool to see that transition happen.
Right.
We did a bunch of work over the winter time. The car is completely different, and we got to find our new baseline. And it's just continuing the evolution of this thing, like non-stop, you know.
So do you know how many national titles have been won with this car in SCCA Autocross?
I think 15.
15.
I think.
And you won more than a few in this car, right?
I won 2 in mine, 1 in Dwayne's car, and 7 in this car.
7. Sweet.
So it's there's a lot of sweat equity. It's the epitome of let's make it run, and then later on we'll try to figure out how to make it look good, you know. But the car always looks better in the winner's circle, you know.
Yeah. So, well, when a car has this much history and this like wild flares and big old rollers for slicks, like It doesn't need to be polished up and pretty. It looks bitchin', dude. It looks awesome. So I was peeking under the hood. I've seen this car before. I've always wanted to learn more about it. Like, there's very little original Mustang as far as like suspension left, right? I mean, the body still very recognizable, huge flares, but like, what's under this thing?
The C prepared is actually the way it used to work back in the day. It doesn't really do it anymore. It's prepared in autocross, whether you're running a Toyota or a Mustang or whatever. Prepared is a class where it's a feeder to GT in road racing.
Okay.
And then that's a feeder to, say, Trans Am.
Right.
So the rules from Trans Am to prepared, it was a stepping stone process back in the day. So our rules were based on the old GT1 Trans Am rulebook.
Okay.
So if you're gonna run a car like this, the wheelbase has to be stock, the motor location has to be stock.
Okay.
And if you move these things or cut out a certain amount of floor, they tack a 10% weight penalty on you. It weighs 2,700 pounds. It's got a 302 cubic inch motor. It puts out about 580 horse and 450 pounds of torque. It's got a Jericho in it, a floater 9-inch. We have a 3-link in the back. We have a good old double A-frame wishbone in the front. JRI shocks. We've got Willwood brakes. All the good basics, you know, small little clutch. The way the car is built was built around rules.
Right. Right. So, and if you, like, engine size affects minimum weight, right? If you were to go above 302, you got to add weight or something?
Yeah, technically, yeah, it's 310. You go over 310, you have to add another rough 10%.
Okay.
So if you have a tube car with an over 310 motor, you got to be almost 3,300 pounds.
And what size are the wheels and tires that you run?
This is a 16 by 12 front with a 13-inch slick in the front, and a 16 by 14 wheel with a 14-inch tire in the back. And what the bias ply did was they really worked good when they were twisted.
Okay.
And you got a little, like about 10% more, it seemed like, once you got some slip angle. Where today's radials, they drive really good stuff.
Right.
But if you get in a bias ply, you kind of gotta, as my dad would say, shine your ass just a little bit. So it's really fun driving the old bias ply tires. It's a very visceral experience. It's kind of hard to walk away from, you know?
Yeah.
Not much when you get out and you're still dirty on your arms from grime hitting you, and you hear it screaming inside.
Now, is the front fiberglass or just the hood, or like?
It's a combination of carbon and fiberglass.
Okay.
And then the rear trunk's fiberglass. The doors are steel. We haven't gotten a fiberglass set of those yet. The rules used to require steel doors. Okay. And they've since changed that rule. A lot of things about this car that I think the community doesn't know, and I don't think Frank would never say it. A lot of our stuff we've learned from this car. We would try it on this because this is the first thing you'd hack up and cut, and I don't want to do this, I want to try that, I got this idea. Right. So you'd try it on this first, and then you'd have the trickle down effect. Go, okay, well that worked pretty good on that, let's try it on this other car. Once you try your new stuff on this, then you try it on maybe old blue, and then you start applying it to other customers. There's a lot of first things, from leaf spring designs to coil spring rates to spindles and designs of spindles. We've made lots of spindles for this car. Lots of housings. Actually, we just changed the entire cage. We flipped to chromoly and a bunch of neat stuff there. So when Brienne drives, or when Frank drives, or his grandson, you can move all the pedals.
That is so cool, dude.
And then we just have our spots.
Right.
You put your pin in, and you can change from driver to driver.
Feeling pretty special. I get to sit in the Frank Stagnaro Mustang. That's all I'm going to do is sit.
So you're still a big old bugger.
Yeah.
Well, grab the steering wheel. So one of the things that we had to do, we'd still have to push those pedals down further.
Well, honestly, it's just this. I'm used to being pretty like this in my car.
Yeah.
But the knee would hit the adjuster.
Yeah.
But dude, you sit so far back in this thing. I mean, I knew that from watching you sit in it. But like, I can't even touch the floorboard where you normally would rest your foot. I'm so far back. That's cool.
Yeah, and that's our Peterbilt shifter. We're gonna move all that back later, but until then, we had to just
get it in range.
Yeah. So.
Well, thank you for letting me sit in this, dude.
Yeah, Mickey did the dash up. I gave him a piece of cardboard and had him design the gauges. So we did that off like the 80s.
This car and Old Blue run the old school Stuart Warner, dude. Like, I grew up doing with Lakin an old 70s jet boat that has all Stuart Warner gauges in it. So those hold a special place for me.
Oh, there you go.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.